July 23, that's the date to put into your diaries. It is the opening ceremony of the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland. But the preparations for the Australian Jackaroos have already commenced. They've been in Melbourne this week at a training camp at the Maribyrnong Bowls Club here in Melbourne under very Glasgow-like conditions, very cool weather, and also slow greens in preparation for the selection process which now takes place heading into the Commonwealth Games in a year's time. We caught up with two very important people out at the camp during the week. National coach Steve Glasson, who has just spent some time in Scotland on a research campaign, and team captain Lynsey Armitage. Well, Steve, you've dragged 18 players from right around Australia here to Melbourne, the Maribyrnong Park Bowls Club, ultimately to prepare for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow 2014. Why would you have done that?
Well, Andrew, it's pretty good fit, isn't it, today? I mean, it's very cold out here, so but hopefully Glasgow won't be quite as cold as this. But it's an ideal venue. I mean, Maribyrnong Park have been generous enough to facilitate us with a mirrored green to Glasgow purposely. So full credit to them. It's turned out to be a fantastic surface for that. And this is step one of our preparation for some 15, 16 months' time when we go up there and compete for gold medals at the Commonwealth Games.
Tell us a little bit about your philosophy about preparing as coach, or during your time as coach. You've always been someone who wants to try and find the best conditions that best replicate where you're heading in the short term to the next international event.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if we had the money to do it, we'd spend more time in Scotland, but that's not achievable. So we've got to do the next best thing, and that's try and mirror that sort of conditions, or those sort of conditions here at home. In brief, we're privileged with great facilities and wonderful greens here in Australia, and that was obvious at last year's World Championships when we were, highly successful. But the whole plan has changed now. It's slow tracking for us, and it's a total mindset change, it's a technique changes, and everything change in order to have us in the best possible place come Commonwealth Games next year.
Do you go to Glasgow as the hunted? I mean, it's not that long ago that we won 5 gold medals at the World Championships. What does history count for in terms of how you go and how you're expected to perform?
Certainly the hunted, there's no doubt about that. I think if you're, we're ranked number 1 in the world, so that in itself brings a target to your back. But history up there provides for nothing. There's quite well going to be some smokies in contention here for selection, and just because we came off world so successfully certainly doesn't mean that those same players will necessarily represent Australia, in the next 12 months or so.
Some of the players even said to us earlier today, they said that their form now is good, but they've got to be ready for the conditions, and you've done your best to try and replicate that. You've just spent some time in Scotland. What did you find over there about what your expectations are?
Yeah, there was no surprises. I had a little bit of a roll-up at Kelvin Grove, the venue for Commonwealth Games, with the Scottish coach David Goulet, himself a Scottish international of great repute. So he taught me a few lessons straight away. He reminded me, and I've been privileged to spend a significant amount of time playing in the UK and in Scotland, but it certainly rammed home some very strong memories of what goes on the greens up there, and what we're going to need to do to be at least competitive and ultimately successful up there.
You've pulled together a nice squad here. Some newcomers pretty much from Victoria too, in Matthew Flapper and Barry Lester and Lisa Phillips, Dylan Fisher, the list goes on. What do you think they can bring to the table in terms of, obviously they're more acclimatised to these conditions, to the squad?
Yeah, it's interesting to see them just in our first couple of days here. Obviously they've been here, they've been doing a bit of practice previous to this camp, and everyone's on a level playing field now. So, if I wasn't the chairman of selectors, I'd be saying to you even still that these guys are probably, a strong chance of selection. It's more their, horses for courses type territory. So it's up to them now to put themselves in a situation where we have to pick them and hopefully make our job easy.
Having said that, there's some experience in the squad too. Lynsey Clarke, as she now is, and Mark Casey, Karen Murphy, Brett Wilkie. They're all still firing on all cylinders and have got a taste of Com Games experience. They want some more.
Oh, absolutely, and who wouldn't? I mean, being in Glasgow just 2 weeks ago, the city is alight and alive with expectations of Com Games. They're really excited about it, and for bowls, Com Games is a unique event when you're staying in the village and all that sort of thing. So I think any bowler has a dream of going to Commonwealth Games, and up there it'll be something special. But these guys are going to have to aim up, and it's going to cause us some very sleepless nights in coming up with what we believe will be the best possible team to compete up there. And there's going to be some very stiff people will probably not get selected ultimately in the end. So
We're just over 12 months away from the opening ceremony. What does the next 12 months hold in terms of coming back here for more preparation and obviously just keeping in touch with the guys along the way to make sure that they're doing their bit as well?
Yeah, their kind of domestic calendar goes out the door a little bit as far as performance goes, as far as we're concerned. I know they've all got goals and expectations of how they want to perform domestically, but that'll be on quicker tracks. So ultimately it's going to be all the focus here on heavy tracks. We've got a fantastic opportunity to travel to Wales this August and then up to Scotland for an Eight Nations. So we're literally going to go up there with no expectations, but a great desire to learn and to get an idea of where we're placed against some of the best countries in the world, so we can come back then, and we're actually going to stay there and work on that for a little while, but then come back and work even harder on that, so we're better placed for Commonwealth Games next year.
Lynsey, this week's been all about getting together first and foremost, but also trying to acclimatise to conditions that the Commonwealth Games team's likely to face in Glasgow. You've been to 2 Commonwealth Games yourself. How you find the conditions out here at Maribyrnong Park?
Yeah, definitely quite challenging here. I'm from the Gold Coast, obviously, so the greens are very different, but it's a perfect place for us to train leading up to Glasgow. The greens here are probably running about 10, 11 seconds, which is really, it's hard, but it's perfect for our lead up. So it'd be great for trials and just to see how people go, try different sets of bowls out, that sort of thing.
Now the squad is at number 18 and there's 12 of you out here at the moment. Another 6 come through throughout the rest of the week. The standard in the competition for trying to impress the selectors and the coaches is pretty tough out here, isn't it?
It's definitely pretty tough. To make the squad is hard enough job on its own, but to try and get one of the 5 spots up for grabs, and with only 8 girls, it's a really hard task for the selectors because we're all probably as good as each other. So everyone's going to be trying their best, and I'm sure that they'll pick the best team, and everyone will support whoever goes. So it could be any of us.
You've had a great international career yourself and 2 Commonwealth Games for you in Melbourne and in Delhi. Just tell us a bit about the experience of what a Com Games experience is to you.
Yeah, it's a pretty phenomenal thing, not like any other event really in the bowls world. I suppose the best part about it is you're just part of one athlete in the Australian team of so many different sports and part of the village, and there's so many other activities going on, and it's just such an amazing thing to be a part of. As far as the bowls goes, Melbourne and Delhi were probably two extremes. Melbourne was just a phenomenal event. The standard of the accommodation and standard of the greens and everything were pretty good. India was a little bit on the lesser scale, but I mean it still was an amazing experience and pretty tough work over there. So I'm assuming Glasgow is going to be pretty special, hard work, but a bit of a experience of a lifetime, I think.
And we spoke to Robbie Dobbins earlier about the addition to the squad, I suppose, of some newcomers and some young guys coming through. Lisa Phillips, a 2-time Australian Open champion. We know there's a couple of Victorians here in Barry Lester and Dylan Fisher. Maddie Bouse, part of the squad again. So there's a lot of challenges from below the older generation like yourself.
The older generation, yeah. I suppose that's true. I think that's a great thing about our squad, really. We've got a great mix of experience and the youth. The ones coming through definitely need some people to sort of learn off, hence the older generation being here. But I mean, I don't think age really has anything to do with it at the moment. They're just going to pick the best performed person for a certain particular spot. And, if you're older or younger, I'm not sure it will make a difference. So it's great though.
As a team captain, do you take a leadership role in how the discussions go in your team meetings? And I know Steve Glasson obviously leads most of those discussions, but do you take a leadership role and try and impart some of your knowledge onto the younger guys?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of the senior players have a good understanding of game plans and things like that, but with the young ones coming in, I don't like to overstep the mark, but I like to help them out as much as I can, and I've learned a lot over the years myself, so if I can pass that on and be helpful to someone else, I definitely speak up when I can, but Glass does a great job on his own, so he doesn't really need too much assistance.